It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crane Automotive. The Crane Team's got 'em. Visit them online at craneteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
Okay. It made me small for some reason. What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Well, Arkansas and Missouri, big game coming up on Saturday. We're going to talk about that a little bit. If you're like me, then you're kind of just like, let's get this football season over. But we're going to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Arkansas and Duke, of course, coming up on Thursday. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food? We'll talk about that a little bit. And, we're going to talk a lot about this Arkansas coaching search, everything that's come down the pipe lately. And we'll be joined with Kevin Bohannon, Connor Goodson, help us break down the games coming up, discuss a little coaching search, your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crane Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crane Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crane Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at craneteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crane Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crane Cash champ. You just won big with the Crane Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crane Team. Visit craneteam.com.
Let me mention real quick that we are kicking off our early Black Friday sale at HawgSports, so 75% off now. We've done a couple of different promos. We've done the monthly deal. A lot of people took advantage of that, and we want to give other people, a different way to sign up. If maybe the monthly deal wasn't what you wanted, here's our 75% off annual deal. So $30 for the entire year. It breaks down to $2.50 a month. It's a great deal to sign up for. Thousands have taken advantage of our promotions that we've been doing during this coaching search. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to get in to the search. Last year, Arkansas and Missouri was 21st in the country. This was, whenever I think about this game, I'm reminded, and I think forever will be reminded of Bob Holt. This is when we lost Bob Holt last year in Columbia, Missouri. Just a tragic deal with Bob. He was a friend of mine, and I certainly miss him. I can't believe it's been a year. This game was a 28-21 Missouri win. This was a game also where you felt like Arkansas and Missouri, just because of the conditions, whoever didn't make the most mistakes, the team that made the most mistakes was going to lose the game. And Arkansas made the most mistakes. They turned the ball over, and you almost just could have run the ball and been fine the whole game as long as you took care of it. But Arkansas didn't do that, and they lost the game. The only reason that they lost the game is because of intangibles like that. So that was very frustrating to watch as that game unfolded. Pribula is back for them. He has 1,900 passing yards. Good running game. Ahmad Hardy, 1,400 yards rushing. Missouri produces some running backs. He got 15 touchdowns this year. Missouri, they just have good running backs. But Pribula came back last week. He had missed almost a month. He missed 4 weeks, basically. He was hurt in that Vanderbilt game. They lost 17-10, and then, of course, they lost 17-6 at Oklahoma. Both of those were road games. In fact, his last 3 starts have been road games, and this will be his 4th start because Missouri started the season off playing basically all home games. Their first 6 games were in Columbia. So I think, with Missouri, they started off 5-1. They lost that Alabama game 27-24. But, that just kind of goes to my point that, Missouri started off with a bunch of hype and a bunch of excitement. They were ranked in the top 25 highly and all that stuff. They got a bunch of home games. I mean, that makes it so much easier, unless you're Arkansas, of course, because Arkansas likes to get their doors blown off at home. At least they did under Pittman. But Zollers is the guy that filled in for him. Didn't have a whole lot of success. Obviously, lost that Vanderbilt game where he came in. Ended up throwing 23 passes in that. Lost to Texas A&M. Beat Mississippi State, although he was only 8 of 15 for 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. So this series is just disgusting to look at. Missouri has won 11. Arkansas has won 4. What is it, 9 out of 10 or something? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 9, unless you don't count that vacated game from 2016. It just another thing that kind of goes back to what we talk about. Like all these teams in the SEC have like vacated wins and stuff from cheating and stuff, and Arkansas doesn't have any. You almost would like to see some vacated wins on Arkansas's history. But the last time Arkansas won was in Fayetteville, 34-17, that 2021 season. Really the only 9-win season Arkansas has had since Bobby Petrino was head coach previously. So it's been a tough stretch. No question about it. Just quickly looking in, and guys, we're not going to talk a whole bunch about Missouri. I just want to kind of get this stuff discussed real quick. We do have one more game left. I've said before it would be nice to send Bobby Petrino out. The 30 guys or whatever walking on senior day, some of them, will have eligibility left who are walking, but the 30 guys who are walking, send them out with a win. But also I really just want this season to end and this coaching search to wrap up. With the right name, obviously. I think that's obviously the most important thing. So we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. But Missouri is averaging right in the middle of the pack, 32.3 yards per game. They're 6th in total offense, 436 yards per game. They're not a very good passing team. Obviously, not having your quarterback for a stretch will do that to you. 210 yards per game. That's 14th in the SEC. They have a really good rushing attack, obviously, and have had to lean on that a lot, obviously. 226 yards per game to lead the SEC ahead of Arkansas at 203 yards per game. Scoring defense, 5th in the SEC. 19.6 is a solid number. Total defense, 2nd in the SEC, 277.4. Passing defense, 2nd, 170 yards per game, and rushing defense, 6th, 107 yards per game. It's hard to know what to take on this because they played so many easier games. Missouri's got a pretty soft schedule overall. Now, the second half, they're catching it a little bit, but they've got a pretty soft schedule overall, especially the way things started with so many home games. So it's kind of hard to take away a whole lot on those statistics. So, yeah, that's it there. Okay. Hey, I'd like to tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers, which brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, help you do your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. I always say, as men, like, it's the most important thing to us is like take care of our wives, take care of our kids, and not really expect people to look out for us. Not that, obviously women want to take care of their husband, take care of their kids too, but I don't always feel like people look out for the men. And it's nice when somebody does. And I think Walker Brothers has men in mind, wants to bring you nice clothes, help you look your best. So I think that's real important. And people we should support because they're big Razorback people. I've known a lot of those people for a long time. Now, where my head is right now with this Arkansas coaching search, I think that based on so first of all, I want to say this, I think that this is a very close to the vest search by Hunter Yurachek. Okay. The stuff that I hear from national people kind of almost mocking Arkansas search or, making fun of it a little bit. I've heard, it called weird. I think a lot of that is stemming from the idea that there's just not a lot of information coming out in terms of the Power 4 coaches that might be involved in this. And I do think that there's definitely a possibility that there are Power 4 coaches involved. Will it end up being that? I don't know. Amongst the G5 coordinator crowd, based on the checklist that we've talked about on this show and talked about on HawgSports quite a bit, the two guys that probably make the most sense as far as that checklist goes, defensive-minded guy, a guy that's been a head coach, guy that's coached or played in the SEC. The guys that probably make the most sense would be John Sumrall and Kane Womack. And with Womack, there is the part of it that he played at Arkansas. He went to Fayetteville High School. He has that kind of history behind him. I don't think that that's a hire that is going to make people go, oh, Arkansas has got, I don't think people are going to flip out about firing Sam Pittman, having the possibility to elevate Bobby Petrino and the hire being Kane Womack. He may end up being a really good coach. Okay. And I've said before, let's see how it is 365, 730, how many days, down the line, let's see how things are. But the idea that, you would have a 3-month coaching search and end up with Womack, I don't know is going to just sit well with everybody. There's going to be a large portion of the fan base that's going to go yeah, I'm going to support whoever it is. There's going to be a lot of, who are going to be upset and feel like Arkansas should have hired, such and such guy. I don't think any of that means that Kane Womack won't be a good coach. Okay. I just think the perception of it. And I do think that there is a distinct possibility that there's a couple of Power 4 coaches involved in this search. The thing that's different about Power 4 coaches versus G5 guys or coordinators, it doesn't matter if those names get leaked. And in fact, some of those guys might want that name leaked, but for a guy that's at a Power 4 school, if that gets out, it has a chance to torpedo the whole thing. It has a chance to make the athletic director look kind of foolish. So it's important to understand, how that kind of stuff works. Okay. So if it is a Power 4 guy out there and it is being held close to the vest, I think it's possible that some of the, national guys are maybe a little frustrated that it hadn't gotten out. But I think it's important to judge Yurachek. Not that, he's given you a lot of reasons to inspire a bunch of confidence in the past, but you get 2 opportunities to hire a head coach in football as an athletic director. And I think he's got to know that his tail is on the line with who is hired here. So I don't think that it's a Calipari type hire, but I think there's a possibility there could be a solid Power 4 coach out there that wants the job. Either he's frustrated with where he's at now, doesn't feel appreciated where he is, feels like he's done all he can do at his school, has been there for a number of years, and it's just time to naturally move on because you become beholden to the standard that you have set. Your best season kind of becomes the standard for future seasons. If you don't live up to that, then people give you a hard time and get frustrated with you. And next thing you know, the first bad season you have, you're out because you've been there too long. That's the nature of college football in this day and age in 2025. So maybe that guy is out there and maybe they're playing it extremely close to the vest. I've always felt like my personal job, and I've done this 6 times just with coaching searches in football. So my personal opinion on how these things usually play out is, unless there's a lot of leaks and stuff, which there have been in the past. There was obviously with the Chad Morris deal. There was, with Sam Pittman and Lane Kiffin and all that kind of stuff when that search was going on. But generally, the information that we've been able to provide is the stuff that, we know from boosters or, the stuff that I get a lot of times that are from outside sources. That stuff it's not coming as much. It's not coming down the pipe as much. And I think a lot of it's because it's been kind of quiet. When I reported and was laughed at for reporting that Yurachek had interviewed Deion Sanders and interviewed him twice during that last coaching search. A lot of people kind of laughed and mocked at me, and then some national outlet comes out with it a year later or 2 years or something later. And, they're like the ones that broke the news, I guess, whatever. But that kind of stuff I don't really get quite as much right now. What we're getting is stuff that Yurachek has told boosters in terms of what they're looking for, the qualifications in a coach, the goals that they have for this program in terms of a financial thing. Now, the latest thing I have heard is while they're not where they want to be in terms of those goals, there does seem to be movement towards that. It does seem to be positive movement towards that in terms of those goals, $40 million over 4 years, that kind of stuff. So I thought it might be interesting to kind of maybe look at some guys that we're not talking about much in the Power Four. I mean, we've obviously talked about Matt Campbell quite a bit, Kenny Dillingham quite a bit, but like national guys aren't really saying those names. They're saying the names that they hear, and again, those are generally names that would make sense to come out. And other names like the James Franklin stuff, like. That made a lot of sense why that would come out, that Arkansas had interest in him, even though people are saying that they didn't. They did. And he was asking about Arkansas. I know that 100%. But there's a reason that name would come out, obviously. More obvious. He's not at another coach. It's not going to hurt anybody for him to be looking at Arkansas. The Rhett Lashley stuff made a lot of sense because he's from Arkansas. He's had success at another program. He also ended up leveraging that to getting a better deal at SMU. So when names come out like that, a lot of the times, it's going to come out from a guy who's pretty popular where he is, and he can leverage that to get in a better deal. But if you're not like beloved where you are, like Lane Kiffin right now, like it doesn't matter to Lane Kiffin that this is out, that he's exploring other options, because they would take him back in a heartbeat at Ole Miss. So if your name is getting out there, you better damn well know that you're A, going to that school, and B, that you're popular where you are, because it can get bad for you. And when things leak like that, our experience has been when things leak, it's either for a coach to leverage it into getting a better deal, or the AD ends up looking foolish, like happened at Tennessee, like has happened at Texas A&M. And there are other examples out there. But so I don't know. I just kind of was like, who are we not really talking about? Nick Rolovich. Not that makes any sense. He went 10-5 at Washington, at Hawaii, took the Washington State job, got caught up in all the COVID stuff, didn't want to take the vaccination, didn't want to comply with some of the COVID stuff that was going on, some of the ridiculous, outlandish stuff, looking back, some of the things that we were doing and saying. And he was fired over it. He was fired at Washington State over that. He's now the interim head coach at Cal. Has an offensive background, so doesn't check that particular box. But, I'm just like, there's some guys we haven't talked about. Manny Diaz at Duke, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. Jim Mora at UConn, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. Dave Doran at NC State, he's been there forever. He hasn't had like any outstanding years, but he's been pretty good, like some 9-win seasons and stuff. Been there for 12 years, defensive background. Jake Dickert, another Washington State guy. He's actually the guy that took over for Rolovich when he was fired. But anyway, he's at Wake. He's 8-3. He was 8-4 at Washington State, and then he went to Wake. He's 8-3, defensive-minded guy. Chris Kleiman, I was just thinking, like, based on his interview after the game, they ran for like 400-something yards on Utah and lost the game. And he seemed very frustrated with people who have been, like, critical of him, need a new coach, need a new coaching staff. These players suck. Like, he kind of took it out on people. Now, the AD came up and it's like, you're not going anywhere, we got your back. Don't worry about it kind of deal. But he was pretty emotional about it. I don't know. So and he's got a defensive background, but that's a guy that's won at least 8 games over the last 5 seasons there until this year. I think they're 6-5 right now. But and it has 3 9-win seasons and a 10-win season, and won 4 national championships on the FCS level at North Dakota State. So I don't know, really just like went to the list of Power 4 coaches, like who makes maybe some sense that we're not talking about. Okay. Oklahoma State guys are saying Morris to Arkansas. Eric Morris is definitely a name that's popped up a lot. Some of the talk that I've seen has been like that Morris would choose Oklahoma State over Arkansas if they're both the top choice. My personal opinion would be that, like, if Arkansas and Oklahoma State both want a coach, and that coach is more intrigued with Oklahoma State, then to me, like, Arkansas has got some serious financial situation going on, like some bad stuff, because Oklahoma State's not a great situation in terms of finances from everything that I'm told. So anyway, they're reporting that apparently at the Oklahoma State site. So who knows? I guess they're reporting that anyway. Just kind of posted on the board recently here. Anyway, all right, we're going to go to Kevin Bohannon real quick. He's waiting in the wings. We're going to see what he has to say on the matter. Again, HawgSports is 75% off, HawgSports.com. And Kevin joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline, if I can find. There we go. On the Ozarks Go hotline. K-Bo, how's it going, man?
Doing good. Getting ready for a fast and furious week of turkey dressing and coaching search.
Yeah, Ozarks Go. You can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 if you're looking for fast, reliable internet, or if you're disappointed with your current service. OzarksGo.net/hog. Find out if they're available in your area. Offer several different tiers of internet. I use the 2,500 megabits per second. That's gigabit plus. I think the gigabit plan, which is 1,000 megabits per second, is probably really good for most households. Very reliable, in my experience, and good people. It's a local company, so when you reach out to them at 479-684-4900, you're going to talk to somebody local as well. K-Bo, what do you make of the coaching search?
All right. I'll float the name out there that I floated on Sunday, just because with the timing and everything, and we can only go by what, like I said before, this is like being a CIA analyst and putting dots together to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And we can't really, that we can only do with the information that we're given. I think the administration and the coaching search committee has done a really good job of keeping the 100% factual information close to the chest. Some of the stuff that has come out about meeting with James Franklin, the interviews, that's all happened. With the timing, it pointed towards a coordinator, and I just couldn't see a sitting G5 or P4 coach announcing they were leaving their school before the end of the season. But Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin's his own guy. He's going to do what he wants all the time, anytime, like you and I've talked about before. So I said Cliff Kingsbury. Look, Cliff Kingsbury had been, attached to Arkansas job before, has experience in the conference as a head coach. Was the record very good as a head coach? No, but he's not a defensive guy. He's an offensive guy. I think it would be a splashy hire that would, make sense. Just couldn't get any traction on that theory, running it down. So, we've within our group, we've come up with some other ideas, and it eventually leads back to, one of the four names that have been mentioned ad nauseum.
So, Kevin, you looked into this Missouri game real quick. We'll shift gears with you a little bit because you did the advanced look. What do you see out of Missouri before we get back much more into the coaching search discussion?
Yeah, one of the best defenses in the SEC. They have bookends on the defensive line that are really good. So this will be Arkansas' toughest test to date on the offensive line. That's number one right there. Their offense is not very good. I mean, they've been average this year. Sans Ahmad Hardy. He's rushed for over 1,400 yards. He had a 300-yard game against Mississippi State, and he had a 250 game against Louisiana. So he is their offense right now. Their passing attack is not what it's been under Eli Drinkwitz. So Arkansas has to gear up, put 7-8 in the box, and stop the run. If for some reason they can do that, they'll be in it late in the game. I just don't know how many guys have let go of the rope. We saw it in the Texas game, and I put a thing in there at the end of the advanced look that it's time for KJ Jackson to get his first career start, get some more action, get some more film time, so he could, show what he got for the future coach, what he has for the future coach at the University of Arkansas, or a potential landing spot out there. But I think it's a perfect situation for him to do it. Happened against Missouri in 2020, if you remember, with Felipe Franks being injured. KJ Jefferson had a great game. Time to pass the baton.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the coaching search. I did switch you gears there so I could look up and see if anything is being said right now. But it seems like, a lot of people are talking about Eric Morris at Oklahoma State, Eric Morris at Arkansas. What's your take on him?
Yeah, and I think Eric Morris has a high ceiling, but the floor, he could come in and it could be a dud. Now, that has nothing to do with his last name being Morris. That just does. So I like the way that he approaches things. He approaches it from an analytical perspective, and with guys having a high football IQ, which is in line with what Kurt Signetti did, some other guys. I still think they need a guy that, has been in the trenches with the NIL at a major level. North Texas, while, they do have a great record, they're ranked for the first time since 1959. I just don't see it as, he could come in and win games. I just don't see it as the hire that would move the needle that much. Now, he could bring guys in like his current quarterback, and they could do a lot of big things, but he's a quarterback whisperer, whatever, that specific segment right there. I want a full 360 CEO that has been in the trenches with NIL and knows how to recruit it.
I think that's the important thing to note. Like, it's not that those guys might not be good coaches. It's just like you cannot afford to not get a guy that's a program builder. I think, and just obviously the perception of it is one thing, but you also have to, if you're Yurachek, can you really afford to take a risk with the hire? The thing that I like about the idea of hiring a guy like a Morris or a Golish or something versus someone like Kane Womack, who, may end up being a really good coach too. I think Kane has some things in his background that are obviously likable, but I think what you get with a sitting head coach is they're going to bring players with them. And you mentioned the quarterback, and got to get really good running back also. Because if you hire a coordinator, like, nobody who's like a starter or something at Alabama is coming to Arkansas, under Womack. So I think that's kind of important to mention. But I do really think that there is a guy out there or two who is a sitting Power 4 coach that we're overlooking some kind of way, or we've missed, or we just hadn't put it together, that is going to, maybe end up getting this job. So we'll see.
Yeah. And, maybe it's that mystery coach out there, because zero information has been put out about him, whether it be through agent channels, administration channels, or anything. It could be that. And I know a lot of people brought up the Matt Campbell name. Well, we'll see. I just don't know, but I would like to see that P4 sitting head coach somewhere get the opportunity at Arkansas.
Yep. All right, K-Bo. Anything else to add?
Happy Thanksgiving to all of our subscribers, listeners. Got a great deal right now, 75% off. And it's my 1 year anniversary at HawgSports.com as well. So glad to be a part of the team. Looking forward to year 2.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed having you on, and it is a really nice deal to sign up for. And it's not just this coaching search, obviously, that's going on. There's assistant coaching spots to fill. There's staffers to fill. There's the recruiting early signing period. What happens in that? The transfer portal is going to be absolutely bonkers, and that's coming up. So sign up at HawgSports. Follow us along with all that stuff. The website has been. The traffic has been absolutely outrageous during this coaching search. I wouldn't be surprised if we lead the country in message board traffic this year. But one of the 10 largest sites in the country for a reason. 75% off is a total ploy to get you through the door and see what we have, because we know once you get there that you'll stick with us like most everyone does. All right, K-Bo. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Want to tell you real quick about our friends over at Blakeman's this holiday season. Shop for a meaningful gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Amazing store at Blakeman's, amazing people working there, and I hear they have all their Christmas decor up in that big new store, and it's something to see also. So go check out our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. And they offer delivery too. When you shop online, they've got things broken down into categories for homeware, jewelry, all that stuff, price levels, all that kind of stuff, and offer delivery. So you can shop literally from anywhere at Blakeman's. All right, let's go over to Connor Goodson now. Connor, I hear there's a pretty decent basketball game going on Thursday. What do you think?
Yep, there's a pretty marquee matchup, standalone event happening up in Chicago, which I will be heading up there tomorrow morning to go and cover it from Chicago, and second straight Thanksgiving Day game for the Razorbacks, and looking forward to it. It's going to be a challenge. There's no way around that. It's going to be a really big challenge for Arkansas. We'll see if they really learned and were able to absorb what happened in this last 4-game stretch and build on it and kind of move forward, because this is the gauntlet, man. You get Duke, Louisville, and then every other game from here on out is basically just a really big test for Arkansas. And if you can get a couple of these games, you can really get a really nice resume starting to build up for March down the line.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about it. I got to check on something real quick, Connor.
Yeah, so Arkansas, Duke. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your rear end and say that this is a great matchup for Arkansas. It's not. We saw this last 4-game stretch. Arkansas really, really struggled on the glass, the front court. You saw a little bit of life out of them against Jackson State, but man, anyone, I mean, we were talking about it on press row. We could field a team of 5 that could give Jackson State a little bit of a scare. So, a little bit of confidence booster maybe, but you can't really take a whole lot of that into this matchup with Duke. The struggles against Samford, the struggles against Winthrop, the offensive rebounding in particular, that's an area that I think Arkansas is really going to struggle with on Thursday. Cameron Boozer and Patrick Nambanga, 2 guys who are in the top 100 in the country in offensive rebounding rate. So doesn't really bode well for Arkansas's front court if they don't come ready to play and throw their weight around. And you remember Cal talked about it after Jackson State. You got to get in the ring, and to be one of these top elite teams, you got to be ready to really get in there and fight and hold your weight with them. So can Arkansas do that and prove that they're a contender and kind of overcome some of these early season woes and prove people wrong? That's what I'm really looking forward to. So it's going to be a good test. Don't know how well Arkansas really matches up in this one, but it'll have the feel of a March heavyweight slugfest for sure.
Did you see any of their game against Texas or Kansas?
I did a little bit. I've been going back and watching that, man. They run some really, really creative sets. I'm really impressed with John Shire and what he's been able to do with this group. They look like they're all on the same page. The guard play I thought really stood out, but obviously you can't talk about Duke without talking about their 2 big men, Nabonga and Boozer. And that's what's really stood out, in their game against Kansas. They really, it was kind of back and forth that they pull away at the end. It didn't really feel like Duke was ever really, in danger of losing the game, even though, Kansas would get within single digits or make a run here and there. Watching them, it's going to be tough. I hope that Arkansas is able to respond a little bit better than they did against Illinois last year, where just even when it's like Arkansas would take 2 steps forward and then 4 steps backwards. So you really hope that Arkansas can really come out and play inspired basketball. So particularly the front court, really, when I talk about that, they need more from this front court if they're going to do anything this season.
What blows me away about Cameron Boozer, I can't remember anybody at a program like Duke that leads the team in points, 21.1, rebounds, 9.9, assists, 4.0, steals, 1.7, and block shots, 1.3. Leads them in all those categories. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a true freshman, Trey. He was just in high school like a few months ago. Like this freshman class across the country. I mean, Arkansas's got 2 really good ones, but just the freshman talent across the country this year is just mind blowing. And Cameron Boozer is the guy really leading that charge. And Arkansas was in on him recruiting wise for a little bit. Obviously, he chose Duke, and it was between Duke and Miami. There's a little bit of mystery there, but Arkansas was in on him because he's a high level player. And I think that a lot of people who watched him in high school and in grassroots basketball, they saw that he was capable of being really good. I don't know if they thought that he was capable of really leading them in all the statistical categories off the rip. But they're going to have their hands full. Trevin Brazil is a guy that I really look at who's going to have one of his games of the year. He had that career high against Southern. Then Michigan was in foul trouble. Trevin Brazil's got to play really, really good. You might throw some Carter on him a little bit. You just really need your veteran guys who have been in these high caliber marquee matchups, especially last season. You got to treat this like it's a win or go home type game. And you need your veteran experienced guys to really step up to help you get over the hump there.
Thoughts on this coaching search, Connor?
Man,
Where you at? You've been following around. You've been addicted to the board just like everybody.
I have. It's funny. My dad actually he took advantage of one of our deals a few months ago, and he texted me the other day, and he's like, "Man, I'm going down so many rabbit holes on our board." He's like, "I've convinced myself of all these different guys," and I've been the same exact way. It's fun, and then there's some part of you that it's a little anxiety. Sometimes I feel like I want to throw up because it's such a pivotal moment for Arkansas football, because this is really going to determine where Arkansas football shakes out in this next iteration of the college football landscape. So there is some seriousness to it, and I'm just excited to see where this goes and kind of get into that grind, because like you said the other day, the work doesn't stop whenever the hire is made. We still got a lot of work to do. Obviously, Danny West going to have his hands full recruiting wise, and digging into this new coach and the staff that he puts together. That's what I'm looking forward to most. And then obviously debating with our fine folks over on the Ragers Edge whether the hire is good or not. That's always fun too.
I hear you. All right, Connor. Appreciate you joining us, bud.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Trey.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Again, follow him at Connor Goodson on X and read all of his content at HawgSports. Does a tremendous job for us covering Razorback basketball and football. Does a little bit of everything for us. Last week I went 0-4 on my picks, which brings me to 31, 31, and 3. After a very impressive start, not unlike Missouri, I have really faltered down the stretch. Last week, what hurts extra, what really hurts extra, is that I pulled a George Costanza and was like, I'm going to go, because I went 1-4 the week before. And I was like, you know what, this week I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go against every pick that I think is going to play out. And I did the opposite, and I went 0-4 because of that. So I would have gone 4-0 if I'd have just gone with my gut. But that's how it goes. It's supposed to be fun. Bet Saracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. We are currently 31, 31, and 3 on the season. I'm going to make my picks this year. I'll tweet them out. So we'll do the wager wagon a little bit different than we have in the past. But check out Bet Saracen. If you use the promo code Biddy, capital B, lowercase IDDY 125, you hit the link below. You can get 125 back when you make your first bet. So 125 in bonuses when you make your first $25 bet. So a pretty cool deal. Check out our friends over at Bet Saracen.
What can you say about Super Sid? He's one of Arkansas's all-time greats and still cares about the little guy.
What I like the most about Bet Saracen is the ability to make bets during the game.
How about this special offer from Bet Saracen?
Brand new players get a 100% profit boost just for downloading the Bet Saracen app.
I always played Bet Saracen out on the trail.
I always play Bet Saracen out on the trail. Okay. So I'm not sure what else we can really say on the coaching search, but we'll dive into our questions right now, see what people are asking. Maybe that'll help us bring some other stuff up. I always go I do these long deals every day on what I'm hearing, and I also include what I've heard. People are like, you already said that, Trey, but I also I don't like to put out incomplete information, and I feel like sometimes if I don't kind of reiterate what I've said before, then it can be misinterpreted, or the whole thought is misguiding people. So just a quick, kind of the things that we know right now, what Hunter Yurachek had told boosters on at least two different occasions, angling towards a defensive-minded guy, somebody with head coaching experience, somebody whose coach or played in the SEC, wants the hire done before the chaos of dominoes start to fall. Obviously wants somebody who really wants the job, and that would lend in that category. You don't want somebody that's like, well, I'm just going to see how the things fall, dominoes fall and everything. Then you could get in all kinds of chaos, because who knows whose coach is getting taken from where, what dominoes start to fall because of that. Utter chaos, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. So those are some of the parameters that he has for this. Razor Pilot starts off strong. Who are we hiring? Thanks. I wish I knew. But the way this is going to play out, and I've said this before, like my role kind of in this whole thing is to lay out, parameters like I've laid out, discussion about meetings being held, what Yurachek is telling boosters. And we get stuff from outside, there's stuff from, the coaching ranks, there's stuff from agents, there's stuff from, inside the program, boosters, all that kind of stuff, where we get different information. And a lot of great information often comes from, people covering a school from somewhere else. My experience on these coaching searches, not always, but a lot of the time, especially national, when you group everything together, when this thing becomes basically official, the agent will tell a national reporter and they'll report it. With the Chad Morris story, when I broke that, I said Chad Morris will be the next head coach at Arkansas. And the reason that was so early was because no agent is telling their guy that the deal is done, because I was ahead of that. But I had that from people at SMU. I had that from people up here at Arkansas. It was really strong information, so I was able to put that out there before any agent went and told a national person. But that's usually how it'll go. It'll go that way, or it'll come from the place from where the coach is leaving. So say the coach is at Wyoming or whatever, then it'll come from Wyoming. So I'll maybe get a call from somebody from Wyoming, or somebody from Wyoming would put that out. It's rarely going to come from people at Arkansas. Although I say that, it has a lot at Arkansas. Wes Moore put out the John Calipari stuff first. I had the Chad Morris stuff, the Mike Anderson firing, the John Pelfrey firing. We had a lot of people put out Pittman first, before, Georgia or before a national guy put it out. So in Arkansas, it has actually come from here quite a bit. I don't get the vibe that that's going to happen this time, because it has been played so close to the vest. I just don't think a lot of people really know in terms of the Power Four. If it's a Power Four guy, if it's a group of five coach or a coordinator, yeah, I think it could. But if it's a Power Four guy, I don't think that that's going to come out until about 24 hours before the deal is done. Yurachek puts the smoke thing up. It goes to the board of trustees. Once it goes to the board of trustees, then stuff starts coming out. Once it goes to the BOT, somebody's got to tell somebody, and it'll come out. Whether it's an agent telling, or somebody with a source that, is in the board of trustees. Luca Hogchick, great name, says, Trey, when it comes to misdirection in coaching searches, have you seen a coach ruled out or say he wasn't interested but ultimately be the coach hired? Plenty of times. Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the prime example. Flat out said he's not coming, Hog Nation 9 says, who do you expect to announce the hire media-wise? I think I've addressed that. I think it'll be probably a national guy. Not always, but probably. Or somebody from the other school. Or, it's been me before. It's been Wes Moore. It's been, I think Mike Irwin has done it before. So, which candidate brings the fastest turnaround? I think that there are plenty of candidates that can get it done. I think there are good coaches out there, but sometimes a good coach may not have the resources that a guy that's not as good a coach has. That happens all the time. So it's hard to say which candidate has brings the fastest turnaround, but probably it would be somebody who is a sitting Power Four coach who is going to bring players with him, who are on that level. That's probably the fastest turnaround. I say that Kurt Cignetti was a pretty fast turnaround, and he brought players from James Madison with him. It's amazing, though, when people turn their nose up at the idea of a G5 guy being the coach, and maybe the most coveted coach in college football right now 3 years ago was coaching James Madison, Or people would turn their nose up at the idea of hiring a defensive coordinator at a blue blood program like Kane Womack, when everybody in the country would take Dan Lanning at Oregon, who before he was the head coach at Oregon was the defensive coordinator at a blue blood program in Georgia, or Kirby Smart, who before he was a head coach, never been a head coach before, was defensive coordinator at Georgia. Of course, you also got Pruitt at Tennessee, who sucked, and he was defensive coordinator at Alabama. So it's not like 1,000%. Which candidate has the highest upside? Probably a G5 guy, probably the most risk also, which is your next question. Probably a guy like Morris or Golish or Sumrall or something, but they also carry risk. I think out of that group, the least risky guy would probably be Sumrall, and Sumrall would be a guy that, like, if somebody told me, like, hey, I've got 3 doors here, and there's going to be a coach behind each door, and you can pick the guy that we opened the door for, but if you don't choose him, then you can't go back to him. So you got to go either door 2 or door 3. And if the first door was Sumrall, I think I would go, yeah, I'm good. We'll take Sumrall and we'll move on, because he has done it at 2 schools now. He's done it at Troy. He's done it at Tulane. And I know Tulane was having success before he got there, but I don't believe Troy was. He's coached in the SEC. I think he's viewed by a lot of people as a really good up and comer. But all I've heard about Sumrall since August is that if Auburn opens up, then that's going to be their prime target. That's what I've heard since the beginning. So maybe Auburn has somebody else in mind. Maybe they think that they need to get a guy that's a Power 4 guy. And if that happens, then maybe that opens the door with Sumrall. Which candidate is the safest? A sitting Power 4 coach. Doesn't necessarily have to be a John Calipari type hire, but a guy that has had continued success at another program, I think, would be the safest. Whiskey drunk, if I dropped a box of toothpicks on the floor, do you think Hunter would blurt out 246 toothpicks? Do I think Hunter Yurchek is Rain Man, basically? Josh Weaver, 1115, not a question. Whiskey drunk, obviously he's been all over the Kenny Dillingham train. So if it's Kenny Dillingham, then we definitely got to have Whiskey on the show. Josh Weaver 1115 says, not a question. I just want to be happy on Saturday afternoon after turning in, seeing Biddy smiling on his walk and talk because the Razorbacks actually made us proud again. Yeah, I want to be happy too. I'm running out of things to say about losing. I'm tired. I'm so sick and tired. I have grown to the point of like where I don't resent the walk and talk, but I just like sometimes just kind of, here we go again, doing this again. It'd be nice to mix it up a little bit and have something positive and be happy on a walk and talk. It's been since the Tennessee game. I really feel like it's been since that Tennessee game since I've done a really wow, amazing, doing something you didn't expect, doing something you didn't think was possible. And Archie says, would any of the coaches mentioned possibly retain Petrino as a OC? He was actually asked that on Monday at the press conference I was at, and just kind of declined to answer it. But usually you just don't see that. Like when a guy is considered a candidate for the job, he's the interim coach. You usually don't see it. Like, I think, for a lot of people like Barry Lunny made sense to stay on the staff with Pittman, but he didn't. He left. Big DC 77 says, Trey, with what information you have, do you see Arkansas in that middle tier range in the pecking order of the SEC? And will all the big-time boosters and companies keep the money flowing regardless of the hire this cycle? Go Hogs. Middle of the pecking order, I think from a potential standpoint, that is where Arkansas is. The reality is, to now, they've been in the bottom. They've been in the Mississippi State, the Kentucky, and Kentucky's been a better program really than Arkansas has, although maybe not the same level of schedule. Vanderbilt until now, Vanderbilt has definitely moved out. Arkansas right now is the worst team in the SEC, though. I mean, they're the worst team. Like, we can talk about close losses and stuff. They're still L's. Arkansas still doesn't know how to win. Arkansas still doesn't have, Taylor Green has never at Arkansas, robbed of it a couple of times with fumbles against Memphis and Ole Miss, but has never led Arkansas, down the field. And I think part of it is just like maybe from a personality standpoint that Talon doesn't have, maybe he's not a good fit to work with Bobby Petrino, who is hard on you, can maybe get in his head a little bit, in his own head. Because physically, like we see stuff from him, it's like, wow, Talon, Talon's doing some really impressive stuff. Talon, putting up more yardage than anybody in history, or the second most yardage than anybody in history at Arkansas, and like doing all this stuff. And then there are times where you're just like, what the hell was that? What is he doing? What is he thinking? How could he make that throw? How could he make that decision? I think that Petrino's right, that he feels pressure, that he's got to score on every play. I think maybe he doesn't handle some of the stuff with Petrino. We've seen Petrino get so pissed off at people, it totally gets in their head. Alex Tejada did not handle getting yelled at for the first time in his college career by Petrino very well, So I think that's part of the play there. You got to have a guy that's, this maybe has a little bit different attitude when it comes to that kind of stuff with dealing with Bobby Petrino as your head coach. He'll make you great, but you got to know how to take it. And I'm sure that, Tyler Wilson would be a great guy to talk about how to take Bobby Petrino. Big DC 77. We did that one. Bentonville Hog says, yes, despite the fact that that's an answer. Hog Talica says, give me the 2010 Alabama game atmosphere over 2021 Texas game atmosphere, excluding the loss, of course. Greg McElroy said Razorback Stadium 2010 was the loudest he'd ever played in. I thought it was much louder in 2010. I would probably disagree. I was at both games, obviously. I haven't missed a Razorback home game since 2003, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but it's been a long time since I've missed a Razorback home game. So to me, that Texas game was the best environment that they've ever had there. And the reason I would say it's better is because the stadium is enclosed now. There are, 4,000 plus more seats in that north end zone where there were none before. So it was also, I believe that Alabama game was not dark. I believe that was a daytime game. Yeah, that was in the day. So the Texas game at least finished at night. Did it start at night? It finished at night regardless. So I would take that Texas atmosphere, plus they won, and, the after effects, the rush in the field and all that stuff. You didn't get any of that with the 2010 game because Arkansas had a couple of picks at the end. So, J. Cole 927, have you heard that Kellen Moore could be a candidate head coach? What is Kellen Moore doing now? He was a good quarterback. I don't even know what he's up to. Is he a coordinator somewhere? Oh, he's a head coach, yeah. Of course. Yeah. New Orleans Saints. I probably should have known that. That shows you how much NFL football I'm able to keep up with. I always say, like, people are like, do you keep up with NFL? I was like, I do fantasy stuff, but like I can't even keep up with it. I have to rely on other people to help me on fantasy because like I work 6 days a week as it is. And so like Sunday, I can't be like, well, I'm going to go watch, honey, I'm going to go watch NFL football all day. I know I've been doing football all week. So my NFL knowledge is not what some might expect. But no, I don't think that a head coach in the NFL is a candidate for the Arkansas job. Ozark Oinker says, is there a point which Petrino would come back to the conversation? I just feel like it needed to go a different way for him. And I mean, we can say what we want, but like, Talon is the quarterback that he wanted to bring in. And Talon has cost them games. Like he's kept them in games, but like I've said, he has not had moments like leading him down the field to victory. And, it just hadn't happened. But I feel like things needed to go differently. I do want to send Bobby Petrino out with a win over Missouri. With the way things have gone this season, maybe I wouldn't feel like as strongly about that for him if they'd won some games here and there, but yeah, they just haven't. If they'd won some games here and there, then maybe we'd be talking about him more. Ohio Hogs, I don't think that a coaching hire is coming unless it's one of the G5 or coordinator types. I don't think that if it's a Power 4 coach, we're not going to hear about it until Saturday night at the earliest, Sunday, Monday maybe. Would you rather have a less successful coach hired this weekend or wait for a playoff coach, even if it hurts year one recruiting? I'm for the long play. I would take a playoff coach. I'm for the long haul. I'm resigned to the fact already that, year one is still going to be a bit of a struggle, possibly. Not as big of a struggle as it would have been with the old calendar, but I'm not expecting Houston Nutt year one at Arkansas next year. 247 Hog says, regardless of who gets hired, where do we sit currently? 12 months, 36 months, and 72 months regarding coach salaries, revenue sharing, and NIL. So here's an interesting way to think about revenue sharing and NIL. Now, I think that the goal for the NCAA and the clearinghouse is to take the NIL portion out of it, reduce it to where we're not talking about, hundreds of thousands and millions for players out of the NIL side, but maybe talking more tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, at the top end. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to get accomplished. I know that they have rejected plenty of deals. I also know that they have approved a $1.6 million deal, but they have rejected a lot of them also. The thing that we have to get past in this sport is calling pay-for-play NIL, because then I think there's the idea, you run into certain lawsuits and stuff like that, possibilities and being sued and all that kind of stuff. But what most of these deals are come to our school and we'll find you a sponsorship deal. That's what NIL is, the air quotes for those just listening. But this is just pay for play. It's a loop, it's a workaround. So as long as we're calling pay for play NIL, then who knows? The more rules that you create in this sport, in college football, the more people will break them. And penalties are not harsh. I mean, I've brought up several times, Baylor bounced right back. Penn State bounced right back. Ohio State, after Tackgate, bounced right back. For all the times that Alabama has been penalized, they seem to be doing fine. Auburn's been hit a lot. Ole Miss was hit after the Hugh Freeze stuff, and then, they have 4 years of, mediocrity, and then hire Lane Kiffin, they're right back. The penalties, oh no, they're going to take away wins that we already had. I didn't enjoy those games. I didn't have fun at those games. Is that what you're telling me? It's stupid. So the penalties aren't harsh enough to where teams won't, weigh the pros and cons and then cheat. Obviously, think about all the teams out there that aren't caught for cheating. It's a lot. So, but the idea with revenue sharing and NIL is that agents want their athletes guaranteed money. So they want the money to come out of the revenue sharing pool. And then from there, you get NIL deals for those players. You stack that on top, and then you cut out that revenue sharing money that you guaranteed to the player, because now you've got that NIL money that you can guarantee to them. You take that and you go to the next player and you have that guaranteed money, and then you find them NIL deals, so on and so forth. It works like that. But if you think about it, so we'll just use around $13 million for revenue sharing for Arkansas. Okay. The idea is 75% of the $20.5 million less, is it 2 million, 2.5 million, something like that for scholarships. So let's just say it's $13 million. So if you have $13 million, you could pay 52 players on your roster $250,000 each. Or you could pay 26 players $500,000 each. So it's not just a little money. This is a lot of money. Even if your quarterback took $2 million off the top, which, a quarterback is also a guy that you could maybe go to the clearinghouse and say, hey, this guy's getting $1 million deal here from this, car dealership or something like that, and it's totally fair market value and totally justified. He's a quarterback. So you could probably get a better NIL deal cleared from a quarterback. So, it makes sense that also you would pay them more. So if your quarterback takes $2 million, you still pay your entire $250,000. But this is not socialism. So everybody's not just getting the same. Some guys would warrant $1 million, some would warrant 100,000. But I'm just kind of like putting that out there just to you could pay 52 players $250,000 if you wanted, So it's not chump change. And, on top of that, you have to stack NIL dollars. But again, it's not just, at least in theory, at least what they're efforting towards. It's not what you can raise for NIL. It's what you can get through the clearinghouse. And, once you get past that with penalties the way they are, so you can't get the money clear through the clearinghouse. That's when we go back under the table and start paying players again. Not that teams aren't doing that also now. So just something to think about. And I've said this before, this model of college football, if Arkansas can get their financial ducks in a row and support NIL the way it needs to be supported to be competitive, this is a better model for Arkansas football than what we've seen in the past with just recruiting players in a 250-mile radius. It's a better model for Arkansas, as frustrated as we are with it. Okay. When should we expect something to leak if it's Morris? It's a good question. I think there's a better chance of something leaking if it's a G5 coach or coordinator, leaking before the weekend even. But with Morris, they're in line to play in the AAC championship game also. So keep that in mind. Why did Arkansas waste this season by not firing Pittman last year? It's a good question. I think part of it, there's a few things at play. Number one, making sure that you have your, situation in the proper spot from a monetary standpoint in terms of having that revenue sharing money. Teams across, look at how many people Arkansas fired. You think they fired those people just to do it within the athletic department, or do you think they fired it because they needed to make sure that they had revenue sharing dollars? So that's part of it. The idea of firing, Pittman and, all those staffers and stuff when they would have and having to pay all that stuff off. So that's part of it. Second part of it, I don't think you wanted, the second part of it would be the calendar. It's a terrible recruiting calendar for firing coaches because you fire your coach, the early national signing day pops up, and the transfer portal all in December. And you have no coach in place. All your players hit the portal. You have no time to recruit players out of the portal because they're already taken and signed with other teams, and teams tamper and stuff, so they've already got that head start on you. So from a calendar standpoint, really bad time to fire a coach. And I've made this point before. If you look throughout college football last year, every coach that took over for a fired coach had a really bad year, with the exception of Kurt Cignetti at Indiana and Mike Elko at Texas A&M. Everybody else had, Fran Brown at Syracuse actually won 10 games, but they've tanked this year. But everybody else who took over for a fired coach last year had a really crappy year. So that's part of why they didn't fire him. And then I think third reason, definitely maybe a distant third reason. Do you want to play Arkansas State for the first time in program history with a roster that has been completely picked apart by other programs, and you haven't had the time to bring in players to your roster, and then you go play Arkansas State and get beat? And if you're Hunter Yurachek, that's probably the nail in your coffin also. So those three things, why they didn't fire him. In many other scenarios and years, then he would have been fired. I've made that point several times that a 6-win regular season after a 4-8 season is – you're getting fired. In any other scenario, you're getting fired after that. To me, 6-6 wasn't like this miraculous turnaround or even close to the standard of what Arkansas fans should expect. And I've made that clear before too. I made it before the season. Before that season, I said Sam Pittman needs to win He needs to have like an 8-win type of season. And this was before all the revenue sharing stuff came out and all that kind of stuff. So I can see where they're thinking, even though he won 6. But when I reported that, hey, if Pittman wins 6 games, I'm told he's getting retained. People came after me like I was saying that in support. Like, I'm just reporting what is going to happen. I wasn't saying like, oh, well, I changed my mind. 6 wins is a miraculous turnaround. People were like saying Trey Biddy, he's turned his, he's changed his mind. He's backtracked. He's, crawfishing and all this stuff. Like, no, I actually haven't. I still think he needed to win 8 games, and that never changed. But I have to be real careful on anything I say, speak hypothetically or anything. I posted a rumor mill thing, and I put rumor mill 5 times in this paragraph. Rumor mill, headline rumor mill, all this stuff. And I get a call from somebody or a text message from somebody at another team site. It's like, hey, I hear you're reporting this. Like, no, man, I couldn't have said rumor mill more. Like, we're going to have fun. We don't always want to be buttoned up. We're going to have a little fun, post some rumor mill stuff, what people are saying out there. Even putting the stuff out there, the guy trolling about Mario Cristobal, let's have some fun with it. Somebody's trolling with some ridiculous information. Let's have some fun with it. Let's make sure it's identified as rumor mill, but it doesn't all have to be hard scoop. We don't have a lot here at Arkansas. We certainly don't have wins to celebrate or to dissect or to complain about wins like other fan bases get to do. They get to complain about beating a team, and we don't get that. So let's have a little fun with the coaching search. Who else's wife is tired of this coaching search? Who else's wife is just like, seriously, honey, could you please get off HawgSports for a moment? At least it's my job, so I don't have to hear it too much. Derek Whitehouse says, what are the odds we get a cow type, unlikely, a cow type announcement for a new coach? I feel like the fans, current players and prospects, high school and portal need something to rally around. I mean, yeah, that'd be great. We need something to rally around. Okay, well, here's Ryan Day for you. How about that? No, I just don't feel that happening. I think there's a possibility there's a solid guy out there, but I don't know who it is. Sullivan Ford says, in your personal opinion, do you think this search is actually tight-lipped and has been successful, or do you think it has been one rejection after another? I think it's one of two things. I think it's tight-lipped, and there are Power 4 coaches out there that are in the mix, or it is what it is. And the guys that we, 22 or whatever candidates out there that have been interviewed for this job are actually being, interviewed with the full thought that this could be our guy. The names that we've discussed among the Power 5, I've never paid more attention to the American Athletic Conference than I have this year, but so, yeah, one of two things, very tight-lipped, or all these coaches we're talking about are the actual top-of-the-line candidates for Arkansas. Two of those possibilities. Hog Wild 84 says, do you think the hire will be out of left field? Very possibly. Usually it's out of left field. If you want to go back and look at recent hirings, with Houston Nutt, we knew he was in the mix, but it was reported during that search that Tommy Tuberville was going to be the next coach. With Bobby Petrino, there were all kinds of speculation about who it would be, and Bobby Petrino, nobody was talking about Bobby Petrino because he was head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Why would he come to Arkansas? And then everything went down like it did, but that was very much out of left field. Brett Bielema, there were reports that it was going to be Mike Gundy. In fact, I think that Jeff Long was feeding like influential people, possibly. I think I should say that. I don't know that. And telling them that it was, Gundy to throw the scent off, because Long ran a very close to the vest type of search. Like, he didn't rely on anybody else to help him. And that's why nothing really got out with that Bielema search. But that was totally out of left field. And then Chad Morris, obviously we were all over that. I mean, but there was a lot of people involved. They had a, search committee, and, that was the easiest coaching search I think I've ever followed. And Pittman, we had him early, but never thought it would fall to him. We were definitely all over that, Lane Kiffin being a candidate and all that kind of stuff, and that was all real. But, Pittman ended up being surprised because nobody really seemed to want the job. So, yeah, absolutely. Should be out of left field. What percentage do you give the hiring process being the end? Disaster, tight ship, and well executed? I mean, I would have to lean towards disaster, I guess. I mean, I don't think that there's been a lot of reasons to have confidence inspired when it comes to football. So I would love it to be like, if it has been, close to the vest from Juracek and it is somebody like that, would give me more hope than if I thought it was, more loose lips type of thing. And, M.W. Williams says, how has this search felt different than Juracek's last football search? I think I covered that a little bit, but last time, we knew that Lane Kiffin was without a doubt a target. And here's the thing too, Juracek, when he gets up there, he's going to laugh at all the rumors that were put out there, and kind of mock some things because that's what ADs want to do. He's going to make sure everybody knows that this was the guy that they targeted from the beginning, that this is the guy that was the only person offered the job, so on and so forth. That's what he said with Sam Pittman when Sam Pittman was hired. He was the only coach. I can't say he's the only coach that was offered the job. Depends on how you want to define that, I guess. But that's how it'll go, And AD's, he should, if he does a good job, he should have his moment like that. Get to laugh at some of the things that were floating around, and talk about how he enjoyed hearing all of the names and misinformation and stuff. But that's how it'll go. Ben Young 10 says, if you could pick one trait for our new coach to be elite at, what is it? Fundraising, recruiting, portal, or high school X's and O's? Elite at. Obviously, I want him to be in all that, but I feel like you left out one of the things that I think is important, and that is being what Frank Broyles was, and that was a great coach of assistant coaches. Broyles was, this thing like we're all the talk about Houston Nutt. What does his assistants go on and do? Does Houston Nutt have a really impressive coaching tree? I mean, unless you want to put like Gus Malzahn in his tree, like he did not have, like, he had some good guys, obviously, but not guys. People didn't leave Arkansas's football program under Houston Nutt and go on and take head coaching jobs. Nobody did. Yeah. I mean, so I would say, being that overseer of the program, being a guy that, is a great assistant coach, a great hire of assistant coaches. I think that's what I would take. I think that's all very much a cultural type of thing. So yes, it'd be great to have great X's and O's guys, but you have to have the X's and the O's and the Jimmys and the Joes. Those to me are neck and neck, side by side, important. Living Guy says, Trey, are you all planning any extra shows around after the? Yeah, we'll do. I'm sure I'm going to walk and talk, after this comes out. Yeah, definitely. I've even thought about maybe doing VIP podcasts some too, Maybe that's something down the road to think about. Joshua 11 says, Trey, I feel like if we miss out on Kane Womack, we will regret it. He will be a head coach. It's possible. I mean, think about all the guys that you've regretted over the years, or people who have been Razorbacks that and never coached here. Gus Malzahn, was never the head coach here. Jimmy Johnson was never the head coach here. I mean, there's Pear Bryant from Arkansas, from Fordyce. Legendary, arguably the most legendary coach there, and him and Nick Saban. Why did Arkansas waste this season by not firing Pittman last year? Whiskey says because they didn't want to fire Barry Odom. I don't think that Barry Odom's a bad coach. I think that he's unhireable because if he were still at UNLV, people might be having a different story on him. But he took that Purdue job, and I mean, maybe cost himself the Arkansas job by doing that. Gumpster117 and Trey Biddy concerning the news that we've interviewed 22 coaches. That seems excessive. Is that normal? Is that a normal account? Seems like a lot. But also, we don't have a lot of examples from, somebody that has started a coaching search on September 28th, as an AD. Is that a normal now? What do you think? Why do you think such a high number? I think part of it is also to keep some misdirection going. I think they're really trying to make sure that people don't know where they're going. I don't think that report is off base. I mean, even after Yurachek was telling boosters on that Thursday meeting that he's leaning towards somebody maybe with a defensive background, which could be just trying to throw people off, like why would he tell people that, but even after that, I know that he interviewed guys with offensive backgrounds like right after that. So could be, just covering his bases, making sure that they get the right guy, making sure that they, maybe aren't concerned with what the guy has done, but what they think that he is capable of doing, So I think if you got this much time, you interview and talk to as many coaches as you possibly can. And, who knows for them, like it may pay dividends down the road, if this guy works out and leaves for another job or something, then you've got a pretty good – when do you get opportunities to interview that many coaches, so. Mr. Dixon, says Trey Biddy, does Arkansas have their G5 P4 coordinator Womack and is waiting to hear yes, no from a sitting P4 coach? I don't think that Womack leaves Alabama as defensive coordinator to go to Arkansas, even if they got an associate head coach title or a coach in waiting title. I don't think that's a move. Seward 710 says, maybe a random question since you're part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Do staff of other boards that have candidates in the mix pass any intel on you? Yeah, I've had that. Absolutely. No question. We stay connected. Ballhog Blue says, why would Brandon Marcello tweet and post as if he knows who the hire is when it feels like everyone is grasping at straws still? I think he's just putting out information that he's been told, maybe not been told that this is the hire, but maybe is told that a hire is imminent, or, coaches are going to start being told that they're not in the mix anymore. So I think that may be what he was aiming towards. I don't know exactly. Mr. Dixon asking something about Matt Campbell and their funds and stuff. I mean, Campbell's a guy that, to me, that's a guy you look at and say, okay, this guy's been there, for 10 years. He's had an 11-win season there. What else can he do? He's literally been the best coach Iowa State has had since 1906. Does he have the full support to take things to the next level? Would Arkansas have that? So he has turned down opportunities in the past, no question, to stay at Iowa State. But is it time? I think Brian Kelly, I'm not saying, anything like that. I'm just using this as an example. But he had one bad year at Notre Dame and almost got fired and bounced back, and I think had a 12-1 season after that even. And then I think he viewed it as if I have one more bad season here, they will fire me. And I think that's one of the reasons that he left for LSU. Over the last 30 years or so, the most successful head coaches, Lou Holtz, Bobby Petrino, et cetera, were hired out of the NFL. Maybe they are going to take that approach this cycle. Ken Hatfield was pretty successful. I don't know. I mean, the Bobby Petrino deal was a very rare perfect storm. Ballhog Baloo says, get Cabo a brick wall background. You don't like the bicycle? Marcus TO5 says, which candidate is the best recruiter in your opinion? I mean, there's so many candidates, right? I'll say this, Eric Morris has done a pretty outstanding job evaluating quarterbacks. Like, I don't want to go over that again because I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, but he's done a pretty outstanding job in that regard. I think Sumrall is probably a pretty good talent evaluator also. The coach that can keep some of the good players and recruits already with Arkansas and bring in new recruits players with them. Arkansas has to stop getting just rated. They have to have a better financial situation to where it's not just like, hey, we like Isaiah Satania. We're gonna take him. We're gonna go ahead and take him from you. And we like Luke Has. Oh, we like this Jalen Braxton kid. Let's go ahead and take him off Arkansas's roster. And who else? Kudus. We'll take that Kudus kid. Yeah, let's get him. Let's just take him off of Arkansas's roster. Even UCLA is like, let's see. We'll take Nico Davier off your roster real quick. I know you need defensive ends. We're going to take him. Like, that's where Arkansas has been. Teams just coming in and taking him. We'll take that. We'll take him. And Arkansas hadn't been able to really do anything about it. So that's got to stop. You should not be like losing players to Ole Miss or Oklahoma or, other schools like that just because they want them. Brad Spence, we think he has a lot of talent. We'll take him. We're just going to offer more than you can afford to pay him, so he'll have no choice but to come to Texas. I mean, that's how it's going. They're just taking them off your roster. We'll take them, we'll take him, and we'll take him. What are you going to do about it? So that's got to change. Trey, how do you feel about the money situation here at Arkansas? You feel to get where they want to be? The last thing I heard on it is some positive movement towards their goals. Not that they have reached their goals, not that they have some of the guys that they want to, first of all, like with John Tyson, like when you see a press conference, what's in the background? Arkansas Razorbacks, logos, Tyson Foods. You look at the football field, what's on there? Tyson Food logo. So they do a lot, but I don't think that they really kind of like I was told, like they wanted Tyson to be the backstop, but I don't think that really happened in the terms of like a huge amount of money, to make sure that they had what they wanted to get to in terms of $40 million over the next 4 years. But I do hear, some positive things, obviously, but where they want to be, I don't think so. But I think their donations are up. I will say that tremendously. You've told us multiple. This Trickle 6. You've told us multiple times, without a doubt, Dabo is the guy. He's going to bring his DC and keep Bobby. I've not said that. Keep Bobby P. Who told you that? It's hard for me to trust someone who doesn't deer hunt. Why don't you? I don't deer. I've never really hunt. I mean, I went as a kid some, but to me, as a 48-year-old married man with, my daughter is 12. I can either deer hunt or golf, especially with my job, because football and sports and stuff happen at night a lot. I miss a lot of stuff in that regard. So, you can either golf or deer hunt, and I like playing golf. Okay. Don't forget HawgSports. Holy smokes, we got 3,846 people on here now. HawgSports is a lot. It's a little more than we normally have, by almost a couple thousand. So HawgSports, 75% off right now, HawgSports.com. That breaks down to $250 a month, $2.50 a month, $30 for the entire year. This is our Black Friday sale. We're going to call it our early Black Friday sale. When Black Friday gets here, we'll call it our Black Friday sale. When Cyber Monday gets here, we'll call it our Cyber Monday sale. But it is ending December 1st. We're going to end it then. I believe I might try to talk to him about extending that, but that's a network-wide promo. The 2 months for $1 deal we did was just for the site, and that's over now. So people who maybe didn't want that deal, or were waiting for that 75% off deal because they knew it was coming, here this is for you too. But right now that's scheduled to end at 11 o'clock on Monday. So go to HawgSports, HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Select the annual option. There's no promo code or anything required. It'll say right there for you, 75% off. So sign up at HawgSports. It's a heck of a deal. That's really the best deal as far as especially the yearly. We don't do anything better than the 75% off. So sign up, HawgSports.com. Thanks to our sponsors, especially our title sponsor, CraneTeam.com, the Crane Automotive Team, 16 locations throughout our state and home to the Crane commitment. Thanks to Cabo. Thanks to CG. Thanks to all of you for your support. If you like what we do, sign up at HawgSports. Check us out. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot, but it's been a lot of fun on our VIP message board, the Razor's Edge. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.